Good morning, everybody. It is 6:35 a.m. Eastern Time, October 4th, 2017. All right, we're beginning to get spaghetti plots for our Invest 90L system, which I am basically convinced at this point we are going to see become Tropical Storm Nate and more than likely Hurricane Nate, based on the path, based on the warm water, based on all the conditions we've been watching in the Gulf and the Caribbean over the last week. This thing has every single potential available to become a tropical depression and then at least a tropical storm. In my opinion, this will become a hurricane. Where it goes from there and how strong it gets is anyone's guess. We are still 4 to 5 days out from it getting into this area at least, but I really feel before that it's going to develop into a name. It'll be named Nate, unless something drastic happens with this area that we're still watching, with the 10% over 48 hours and 10% over 5 days. I'm actually already seeing this moisture from this storm or this system here being pulled down into Invest 90L. So Invest 90L has plenty of fuel. There's a lot of storms being pulled into it. Our cyclone is clear as day at this point. And guys, that's why these percentages are so high. We are at 80% over 5 days and then just 10% less over 48 hours. That means that they don't know. This thing could form at any moment is what they're basically saying. So tropical depression is the next step. I see that happening as early as even this morning before we even hit the noon hours, based on the conditions going on here. I do have charts pulled up for you this morning. This is our radar chart. We look for our deep reds and even blacks sometimes. The yellows are also big areas of watch, but we can see right here, guys, this is a big storm brewing. If you notice the blues and greens underneath it, they are spinning counterclockwise, and now we are having a center mass exploding through the top. That is the beginning of these systems, guys. First, it was a bunch of scattered storms. Then we had the influence of a counterclockwise wind, and now we are clearly seeing big storms exploding through the center of a counterclockwise rotation. That is everything you need. I'm surprised it isn't a tropical depression as of right now. Maybe they just want to be certain. They are sending recon planes into this storm very early. A lot of times, guys, we can't even get the planes to the storms until they get closer to the Leeward Lesser Antilles. That's for the storms that come off of the West African coast, kind of like this area is here too. There's a lot of action still coming off of the West African coast, so we're going to keep an eye on that. But obviously the main concern now, guys, is Invest 90L, which in turn, in my opinion, will become Tropical Storm Nate at least, and more than likely at least a Category 1 hurricane. As far as our 10 and 10 goes up here by the Bahamas, if you notice, we have a lot of wind coming in from the east to the west across the eastern coast of Florida. A lot of people in the comments section from Florida are saying that the wind is wonderful, it's cooling temperatures down. But what's going to happen with this, guys, is this is going to begin to loop up over North Florida and cause almost a suction up into the Panhandle, by Alabama, Mississippi, and the southeastern parts of Louisiana. Texas is still in the mix here. The only thing is these conditions right now are favorable for the right side of the Gulf. We can't rule out anything in Texas. That would be irresponsible to do. But as of right now, if you look at the models, guys, they're all showing a shot through the gap here. That's actually a term they use with hurricanes, through this gap near the Yucatan Peninsula, and then we still have parts of Pinar del Rio is right in this area. So shooting the gap, it would be shooting right between these two land masses. Excuse me, guys, sorry about that. Which keeps this storm strong. What we want is land interaction as much as possible before it becomes a tropical storm. And what that would do is that would lessen the amount of time it has to form once it gets into the Gulf. So it's basically a guarantee that this system is going to move its way into the Gulf. It's just a matter of how strong it's going to be after that and how much it has to recover after interacting with land here and while it's shooting the gap. It may hit land here. It may miss altogether, guys. If it misses altogether, those are the potentials you're going to see for Category 2 through 4 hurricanes. If this thing reaches Category 5, it would be very drastic. It would have to sit in this area for a long time to fuel up. I'm not saying it's impossible. We've seen some very crazy things happen this year, and I would not be surprised to see more. So again, guys, we have this storm 90 Invest L forming very quickly. There is a ton of moisture involved with this storm. And to show you on the charts here, this is our area of 10% and 10%. But watch where the water vapor is going. This Invest 90L counterclockwise motion is so strong now, it is pulling down the moisture from this other system. It's even interacting with moisture blowing up in the Gulf. You could see this band of storms here being pulled down, and we have our counterclockwise motion here. You're going to see this beginning to move across this area. This would have been our first land interaction if it happens, and this may be our second. But again, it is moving in an upward, a northwest pattern, actually, if we're going to be exact about this. Northwest movement up into this area. It may shoot the gap. If it shoots the gap, we have a lot to worry about as far as this storm strengthening right here, and that's going to put the entire west coast of Florida, especially the Panhandle, the coast of Alabama that sticks out here, clearly Mississippi, and clearly the southeast coast of Louisiana, which we all know is prone to hurricanes. And guys, Texas is not out of the mix. Like I said, that's why we need to pay attention to this. Again, it's going to be a northwest movement to begin. If it shoots the gap here, we're going to have a lot of concern for this thing becoming a major hurricane. Again, I believe this will become a hurricane. It's definitely going to be a tropical storm. I will not be surprised to see this thing named Nate even by the end of today. Maybe overnight tomorrow. It's going to have a little more time to form. If it does clip land here, that may delay it a little bit. But then we have this area of the ocean near the Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands are right here, so it's going to pass to the left of the Cayman Islands, to the west of Pino del Royo. I get scared even just pronouncing this name. I don't want to insult anybody, but this is the path, guys. It's going to be a northwest path into the Gulf, and that's when things are going to get really serious. Now, also, with this storm here, the 10 and 10, if you notice, it is beginning a counterclockwise rotation. It's beginning to pull up inside of itself and spinning around this way, and we have that east to west wind here that is aiding it this way. That's why they have it this loop going into the Gulf. These storms may interact with each other. In fact, some of the models I'm going to show you really quick show these things actually both formed and then doing a Fujiwara. Once again, I've never said that word so many times in a 40-day span ever. I don't think anyone has, but we've been dealing with that a lot on these charts, and it's probably just a matter of time before something like that happens. Now, the risks with that is not the storms combining to form a bigger storm, but the way they interact. They dance around each other, and the bigger of the two usually gets whipped into a direction. That may alter these paths altogether and put, once again, the entire Gulf Coast at risk, or it may reverse the other way. It may launch this thing towards Texas. We just don't know. We got to wait and see if this forms. But again, main concern, 80% over 5 days, 70% over 48 hours. Let's check out our model runs now. This is the Europeans, guys. Europeans have this thing going right into the Panhandle and skimming West Florida. All right, so this is the European model. We're going to switch over to the GFS. I'll show you what they have to say. Oop, got to back up for that one. I'll just hit play so the frames can load. Sorry about the flashing. I have no control over it. This is our 10 and 10% that just formed. And there is the tropical storm Nate going right into Louisiana and Mississippi according to the GFS. So a wide range of models right now, guys. That's why it's important to keep an eye on this. Here are the Canadian models. They agree with the GFS a little bit to the east, putting more of Alabama and the Panhandle at risk. So guys, all three models so far are switching between Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Panhandle of Florida, and that obviously puts South Carolina at least at risk. I have West Texas on the thumbnail as well because it's very close to Louisiana. We don't see this thing going into where Houston is or any of that stuff. That could change. We don't know. No one knows where the storm's going to go. These are just based on global winds around it where it may steer. But the Panhandle of Florida, all the way west to Louisiana, always at risk for storms that are coming through and shooting the gap here. Really quick, we'll check out NavGem. I believe they are pretty similar to the CMC and actually very close to the GFS as well, going right into the Panhandle of Florida, through South Carolina, North Carolina, and making its way, skimming past Virginia, it looks, and then and then right up towards New York, New Jersey, Delaware, all that stuff. So that's later on to watch out for. But guys, this is what we're dealing with right now. We got another storm forming. It looks like it's going to form quick. It's cut off a little bit right here, but again, this is the area it wants to go, shooting the gap into the Gulf, interacting with this big system here that has the 10 and 10. And then look at this. This is wrapping around like this. These are all storms that may, or this band of storms, not these specifically, but this band wrapping around like this is going to act as fuel for this storm. So as this thing is moving up through the gap, it's got the 10 and 10 system feeding it all these storms and water vapor, and then in the projected future, this band here is going to stay, and it's going to loop over the top of Florida, and it's almost going to hook this storm into the Gulf, leaving it with only a specific area to go, and that is West Florida, Panhandle, Alabama, Mississippi, and then Louisiana, possibly West Texas. So this is the area of focus where my mouse is circling right now, with fuel coming from all directions. We're going to have storms blowing up on the coast of Mexico, the west coast here in the Gulf, non-stop. These storms will not stop. You see cyclone formation here. This is looking to form in this area. We already have a tropical storm in the Pacific, guys, so a lot of action going on, especially near the Gulf. Here is Tropical Storm Ramon. 45-mile-an-hour winds, 1,002 barometric pressure. Keep an eye on this one, guys. This is projected to go way up the coast, and then after that, we just don't know. Need to watch it. But our storm right now, our Invest 90L, has a higher chance of forming quicker than even Ramon did. So just to give you guys an idea of what we might be dealing with here, this may be our next hurricane. I believe it will be at least a Category 1 storm before it makes its decision about where it's going in the Gulf. So guys, it's time to put those watch hats on again. Have a plan. I'm not saying to go spend money. I'm saying be aware of what's going on, because we are talking 6-7 days from now. We may have evacuation notices going on. So guys, everyone in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, and also areas of South Carolina, need to be very aware of this situation. I'm going to bring you an update later on this afternoon, 100% when I get off work, but I just wanted to touch base this morning. A lot of action going on. This storm is basically guaranteed to form at least into a tropical storm, more than likely a Category 1 storm. Once it turns into that, we got to see what happens, guys. Thank you all so much. I will bring you an update as soon as possible. Have a good day.